Yeah, I just want to go through 20 lessons that I've learned in the past 50 years. I am 50, but I'll be turning 51 very soon, and that's next month. Uh, I mean, this is not something I've got on the list, but one of the ways we can learn in life is from our own experiences. Like when we make mistakes, we learn from those mistakes, whether they are mistakes that we've made in our relationships with others, or mistakes that we've made on our own as we go through this journey in life. But one of the other ways we can also learn is from the experiences of others. So that's why I wanted to share my experiences. That maybe you are going through the same things that I've gone through, and you're trying to decide how to deal with whatever experiences you're going through. So the first one I'd like to mention is my purpose in life is to glorify God and share the truth with other people so they can be saved. That's something that I wasn't necessarily taught by anyone. I just learned that through um, studying for myself and searching for truth, reading books and watching good videos, such as documentaries and stuff. That I would say maybe out of everything that I'm going to talk about here, that's probably the most important thing, is to glorify God in everything that I say and do, and to share the truth with others that they can also be saved. To the mantra that blood is thicker than water is garbage. I've not found this to be true. I've heard that said many times, that blood is thicker than water. What they're actually trying to say is that the connection to those that you're related to by blood, whether it be siblings or parents or relatives, is thicker than it's of more significance, or more importance than your relationship with those that are not your relatives. And that's not true, because I found that those same relatives, even siblings, some of my siblings and even my parents and even relatives, they are the very same ones who've stabbed me in the back, when I've um, been doing my best to try and please them. And that's something else I'm going to talk about. But yeah, that we should not be trying to please anyone. um, so the other thing is, you do not choose the family that you're born into, but you can choose who your friends are and who you get married to. Now those are really important relationships, but they also have to be true, because I found that most friends, it's very hard to find a true friend. That's something else I'm going to talk about. So, third thing is, going to church doesn't make a person a Christian, because with my own personal experience, I found that most Christians are fake. No, maybe it's not good to put a number or a percentage on it, but I found that in my personal experience, over 90% of Christians are fake. That's why we find that when Christ returns to the earth, there will only be 144,000 true Christians, or righteous saints that will be ready for his coming. Everyone else will be wicked. But I've discussed that in other videos. For a man's worst enemies can be those of his own family. Yeah, kind of linked to uh, this issue of blood is thicker than water, which I said is garbage. Can be those of your own family who you are trying the best to help, who actually turn around after you've helped them. I've actually personally experienced that I've helped family members and they've turned around and stabbed me in the back. 5, actions speak louder than words. Yeah, words mean nothing if they're not followed up by actions. And they also say talk is cheap. 6, a friend in need is a friend indeed. True friends are few. 7, alcohol is a poison. I don't drink. I think it's a waste of money and it's bad for your health. And also, for me, my body is God's temple. I don't put garbage in my body. 8, parents can be jealous of their own children. I've personally experienced that. 9, marriage does not always bring families together. Sometimes it splits families or people apart. That's actually something I've experienced. That certain relatives actually hated my wife, and even from my wife's side, I've had relatives who don't like me. So yes, in some cases, marriage brings families together, but in some cases, it doesn't. Uh, 10, the older you get, the more you appreciate every single day that you're alive. Whereas, when I was younger, I used to take life for granted. And that's why sometimes we have these young people that get involved in very bad either traffic accidents or, the jumping off cliffs into the water and then they get hurt or injured. They end up in a wheelchair, riding on motorbikes, at a very fast pace and getting injured or even killed. Because when you're young, you feel like you're invincible. But when you get older, you realize that life is actually fragile, and you appreciate life more. Every day that I wake up, I thank God for the fact that I'm still alive and I can, share this time with my family and those that are dear to me. 11, people in glass houses should not throw stones. Um, so some of these sayings, you have these sayings like in English, and some of them actually tend to be true, and some of them sound true, but they are not necessarily true in every case. But in this case, this is talking about those who like to criticize others. It's very often the case that those who like to criticize and point fingers at others, they see the fault in others, but they themselves don't like taking criticism. They are very quick to get angry and upset when someone actually starts pointing out the faults in them. They don't like it. This is what this is referring to, and I found this to be true. 12, walk away from abusive relationships. In fact, I've repeated this one on number 20, but actually, is walk away from abusive relationships. I try to hang on to those that were, especially relatives who are abusing me. Specifically my parents, I try to still have a relationship with them. It's not worth it, because you're just going to get hurt, even more. And so, I've noticed that some of the things that I used to do to try and please my parents or other, my siblings or relatives, no one really appreciates it, So it's like a waste of time, really. And I'm saying, in this case, what I'm talking about is walking away from abusive relationships. Because when I was in the police for 12 years, that was actually one of the things I used to deal with. I used to deal with especially domestics, domestic abuse and domestic violence. And we actually used to arrest people that used to abuse others. So there's no reason why I should then put myself in a position where I'm being abused by someone else. I used to send people to court or to prison for doing the same thing. 13, don't waste your time trying to make others happy, because you will never please anyone. Concentrate on your own happiness. 14, I grew up thinking that if I was nice to everyone, everyone would be nice to me. That's quite a significant one, actually. But I've learned that it's actually those you are nice to who actually stab you in the back. 15, no relationship is so important that you should be willing to maintain it whilst you are being abused. Similar to number 12, where I spoke about walking away from abusive relationships, or cutting ties. Cut ties with those that are abusive to you. 16, most people are cowards. Yeah, most people are cowards. And I would like to cite this pandemic as an illustration of that, because even Christians were scared of dying because they saw something on TV that they never actually saw in real life, and they went and they were wearing masks and constantly washing their hands, not allowing visitors or relatives to come and see them, and not visiting their own relatives. Believing the propaganda on TV, obeying the TV, because they were so scared. If that's what you were doing during this pandemic, then I'm sorry to say, but that was cowardly behavior. Revelation 21 verse 8 says that the fearful will have their part in the lake of fire. The scriptures mention, it said that 365 times it says in the Holy Scriptures that we should not be afraid. But most people, including Christians, were scared, and like I said, that's cowardly behavior. Personally, I didn't take part in this pandemic because I knew it was a hoax. And I also forgot to mention that some Christians went as far as taking the poke. God never instructed us to do that. But that's just an illustration. I mean, people can be cowardly in many different ways, not just when they're scared of a disease or scared of dying, scared of losing their homes or their jobs if they didn't go along with the propaganda. 17 is set boundaries and let everyone know your position so that they don't try to take advantage of you. Unfortunately, with me, I did that rather late in life. I allowed a lot of people, including even workmates, to walk all over me. But not to say that I never stood up for myself, yes, but just walking away from those kind of relationships. That's something I did quite late in life. But yeah, it says it's never too late, to correct things, or better late than never. So 18, the only true religion is Christianity, hence why there's a war against it. The Bible is banned in 50 countries and Christian preachers are persecuted in Western countries, but Muslims can have police protection when praying in public. I've actually seen a video where these Muslims were doing a call to prayer on a loudspeaker on London Bridge in London, but Christians who know God, distributing literature and doing street preaching, excuse me, are being arrested and then falsely sometimes accused of being homophobic, which even that word alone doesn't even make sense. A phobia is when you're scared of something. I don't think anyone is scared of homosexuals. 19, wisdom comes from God, not from old age. I've seen, when I was growing up, I used to think that the older you get, the wiser you become. Maybe in some cases that is true, but I found that in some cases it's not. Just because you're old, in your 70s or 80s, does not mean that you are wise, because there are people who are old, but they still drink alcohol. Which I've said many times, alcohol is a poison. So I mean that's not wise. There are many married people who are old who are having extramarital affairs. That is not wise. Or an older person who's being abusive to a younger person. That's how is that wise? That's not wise. So wisdom comes from God, and it says in the Holy Scriptures that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. So yeah, that's where wisdom comes from. I'm sure there are many other lessons I could have shared, but that's what I could think of. So number 20, walk away from abusive relationships. I've repeated that. Perhaps God meant for me to repeat it because it's very important. And I did a video on how to deal with conflict, and I mentioned that the issue of forgiveness is very often overemphasized, especially by Christians. When you tell them that so and so did this to me and it offended me or it hurt me, Christians would tend to say, just forgive that person. Yeah, but that's not the solution. How are you stopping that person from continuing with the abusive behavior by forgiving them? And I'm not saying that we should not forgive, because it clearly says that we should forgive others as God has forgiven us, but you are not remedying the solution by continuing to forgive the person. You need to also walk away, especially when the abuse is repetitive. Walk away from abusive relationships. Yeah, what I wanted to say is that even Christ himself said, when you're persecuted in one city, flee to another. And Abraham and Lot went separate ways because they couldn't agree, and so did Paul and Barnabas. So yeah, we are not forced to have a relationship or to stay in an abusive relationship with anyone. And even sometimes the relationship can be with the authorities when they're abusing you, like what happened in this pandemic. You simply have to just say no. There's no relationship that's so important that you need to stay in it, even though it's abusive. But yeah, maybe I'm repeating myself here, but I'm hoping that this helps those perhaps who are going through similar situations, or even if you haven't gone through these kind of situations, it might come to you one day. You need to know how to respond.